we're recording this show actually at a time where there's another set of FIRs and case being built up against teachers and journalists and activists for the Noida protest. And apart from the arson, there is now also a case against teachers, activists for the conspiracy. The same kind of method that we see with Delhi police. And some of the things that I've read from the charge sheet, we'll have a story on that soon up, is again that, has been reading Marx for a long time, known to have views. So, books, what you're reading, what you're thinking.
Accused of Marxist ideology.
Yeah, that's actually part of the charge sheet.
That's actually part.
Accused of Marxist ideology. And can you imagine? So, I want to come to you with, you can chip in on whatever you'd want to from what we've discussed. But one specific question I have for you, it's slightly long, so then take your time to answer. When you consume daily news as a journalist, there's a lot of despondency that one tends to feel because there's a relentless bombardment of, arrests here, this thought crime, punished for this reason, not students being jailed, no bail being denied. On the other hand, you have like Gorakshak Dals who have complete impunity. They are issuing threats, death threats on Instagram, and there's nothing that the police does. So you tend to feel very despondent as a journalist. But as a historian, one tends, I'd believe that, there's so much that you've studied and there's so much of this country that you know that there must be this feeling that, okay, this is not new. That, this has happened before. So do you feel more, let's say, like less despondent than us journalists because you have a long view of the nation? Or are you as despondent as us? Well, I guess what I'm trying to get at is this new? Is this new what we're seeing right now?
So I will answer your question, Manisha. But first, let me come to the question of somebody being arrested and not given bail because they allegedly subscribe to Marxist ideology. Now, there are three parties in India. There are actually more than three, but three well-known ones, which subscribe to Marxist ideology and fight elections. There's the Communist Party of India, there's the Communist Party of India Marxist, and there's the Communist Party of India Marxist-Leninist.
Yes.
So, by this logic, Mr. John Britter should be in jail. Pinari Vijayan should be in jail. Dipankar Bhattacharya should be in jail. Every member of these three parties who fight democratic election should be in jail. So this is an extraordinarily extra legal definition. You can say so and so has prescribed violence or committed violence or violated or breached such and such provision of the Indian Penal Code, and then you can make these charges. So it's absolutely farcical. Subscribe to Marxist ideology.
Yeah.
Now, on your question, is this new? Had there been precedents in the past? There have been precedents in the past, and it is new. I'll try and explain. The Supreme Court, in the time of Nehru, was conservative. It was not activist. So Nehru was Prime Minister from 1947 to 1964. The Supreme Court in the time of Indira Gandhi was submissive. Notoriously in the case of the emergency and the ADM Jabalpur case, but not just that. There was the supersession of judges so that Indira Gandhi would have a loyal Chief Justice in office and so on. So the Supreme Court was, you could say, tacitly supporting the state. It was what Gautam Bhatia describes as an executive court. Now, today, the courts are also, they are submissive, they are docile, they hesitate to challenge the state on major issues, but they also are, if not explicitly, implicitly majoritarian. The courts in Indira Gandhi's time did not say Hindus are superior citizens to Muslims, either directly or indirectly. The whole judicial process today, beginning with the police, beginning with the FIRs, beginning with the lower courts, going right up, we don't know, whether their minds are clouded by majoritarian communal sentiment. You talk about the Gaurakshaks, but there's so many other examples. There's a communal riot, only the Muslims are hauled up. Vigilantes attack the gym owner in our home state, Uttarakhand, Deepak, and his FIR is filed against him. So I think this is where the situation is darker. Now, one last thing I'd say. When the Supreme Court succumbed under Indira Gandhi, people were despondent. However, in the 80s and 90s, it recovered some of its spine. some of it's respect and for the constitution, some of it's desire to honor justice, freedom, and so on. Not all of it. Uh, but now I think the danger is it is an executive court, and it is occasionally, not just the Supreme Court, the entire judiciary from top to bottom is an executive court, more loyal to the king, and also cannot stand for the rights of minorities. One example, I mean, you have people on your panel who know the legal system much better than I do. But so far as I've studied it, the Constitutional Amendment Act, is absolutely unconstitutional. To say Muslims cannot be granted refuge, but people of every other religion can, is completely violative of the principle of equal rights for all Indians. Now, the Supreme Court hasn't heard the case for
Yeah.
what is it now, 7 years? Now, is it too scared to strike it down? Is it too embarrassed to uphold it? Because if it was to uphold it, then the world over, the reputation, international reputation of the Supreme Court is at the Indian Supreme Court is at its lowest ebb since the emergency. Now, when it comes to the CAA, my thinking is either they're too scared to hear it, and they don't want to uphold it because though they are scared of the government, they know that that's the end of any semblance of respect for the Indian judicial system. Now, one last point, if I may make about the Delhi riot.
बस मुफ्त में इतना ही मिलेगा. For the full uncut podcast, subscribe to News Laundry and pay to keep news free. The best way to listen to the Hafta and indeed all our podcasts is through the News Laundry app. You can download the app by clicking on the links given in the show notes. So do download our app and get the best podcast experience. And also pay for news and support a new news media ecosystem that News Laundry is trying to encourage, where we are accountable to you because we run on contributions that you make. We don't take government ads, we don't take corporations ads, so that news serves the public, because when the public pays, the public is served. Subscribe to News Laundry, click on the link in the show notes below and proudly say, I pay to keep news free.